Sir Keir Starmer has warned against divisions over Ukraine and Russia peace talks as U.S. officials travel to Saudi Arabia for discussions. The PM said world security faces a once-in-a-generation moment, and Europe should take a greater role in NATO. It comes as Donald Trump sent his envoy to Saudi Arabia to kick off peace talks between Ukraine and Russia on Saturday. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff are on their way to Saudi to kick off the proceedings of the peace talks. The U.S. president called Vladimir Putin to discuss a potential end to the bloody war. Putin has agreed the war must end after Donald Trump went past Ukraine and European leaders to do business directly with the Kremlin. The pair are expected to meet in Saudi Arabia soon. Trump also held a phone call with Ukraine's Vladimir Zelenskyy to agree to the next steps of the conflict. Sir Keir said, "This is a once-in-a-generation moment for our national security, where we engage with the reality of the world today and the threat we face from Russia. It's clear Europe must take on a greater role in NATO as we work with the United States to secure Ukraine's future and face down the threat we face from Russia. The UK will work to ensure we keep the US and Europe together. We cannot allow any divisions in the alliance to distract from the external enemies we face." Zelenskyy said it was fair that America could talk to Russia, but any peace deal involving Ukraine had to have Ukraine's input. Knowledge of the direct call between Trump and Putin was not pleasant for me, he said. The U.S. rolled over to Russia before negotiations had even started following Putin and Trump's positive chat. Zelenskyy said, "The old days are over when America supported Europe just because it always had." Meanwhile, Zelenskyy has said he won't accept any peace deal unless his country is given security guarantees. Speaking in Germany today, Zelenskyy proposed a new plan to achieve safety for Ukraine going forward. Zelenskyy spoke about his ambitions to create a continental military force at the Munich Security Conference as he blasted Vladimir Putin as a liar, weak, and predictable. He said, "Many leaders have talked about Europe and that needs its own military, an army of Europe, and I believe the time has come. The armed forces of Europe must be created. Without Ukraine's army, Europe's armies will not be enough to stop Russia. Only our army in Europe has real, modern battlefield experience, but our army alone is not enough too. And we need what you can provide: weapons, training, sanctions, financing, political pressure, and unity." The Ukrainian president said Europe should be looking to create such a military separate from NATO in case America might say no to Europe on issues that threaten it. He added that after 3 years of fighting, Ukraine has managed to build up the foundations of a European army and should now act on it as we fight this war and lay the groundwork for peace and security. We must build the armed forces of Europe so that Europe's future depends only on Europeans and decisions about Europe are made in Europe, he said. Europe has everything it takes, but it needs to come together. We need confidence in our own friends so that others have no choice but to respect Europe's power, and without a European army, that is impossible. France is holding an emergency summit as early as Monday, where Sir Keir will join European leaders and the NATO Secretary General for crunch defense talks. Zelenskyy has already met with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance at the Security Conference. They spoke together alongside Washington and Kiev delegations as they discussed the latest developments in the bloody conflict. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk appeared to support Zelenskyy's calls, as he said Europe urgently needs a plan for security. He said he fears global players will decide Europe's future if they don't prepare. European leaders are now set to meet for an emergency summit to discuss the war in Ukraine. The Security Conference, expected to be held in Paris, will aim to strengthen discussion of Europe's role in NATO amid concerns the U.S. could ditch Europe's security. The calls for a united force on the continent come as disagreements over Ukraine's potential NATO membership continue to rage on. Ukraine has wanted to be a part of NATO for years, an issue that helped spark Vlad's initial invasion 3 years ago. This would give them protection from any foreign forces, as an attack on a NATO country would result in a counterstrike conducted by the remaining nations. Moscow has constantly said they will not allow Ukraine to join the alliance with Putin, vowing to continue his assault until he is given these assurances. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has also been adamant that there is no chance Ukraine would be allowed to join NATO. Zelenskyy told global leaders in Munich he is refusing to accept that Ukraine won't be allowed a NATO membership.